I would always buy the house if you can qualify.
Yeah, if done right, I say homeownership is a financial springboard if you do it right. Welcome to Loans Elevated, the podcast that brings you the latest industry news, expert interviews, and insightful discussions that will help you stay ahead in this dynamic market. I'm your host, Brock Lassick, and I've spent years in the trenches of the mortgage industry, helping individuals and businesses navigate the complex landscape of real estate financing.
I'm your co-host, TJ Heidenreich, and together we'll cover a wide range of topics, from business strategies that skyrocket your success to mindset and motivation that fuel your growth.
Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Loans Elevated podcast. Me and Ryan have not been together for a while, and he chose to wear some really nice looking Birkenstocks.
I did not think that through today.
Without even, I can't even see his ankles because they're camouflaged with the socks.
Yeah.
Anywho, so what we're talking about is a follow-up to our previous several episodes. We may have had one in between, but we talked about optimize leverage, mitigate risk, and maximize wealth. And we kind of just went into the details of how that all pieces together in what we call holistic mortgage planning. And now this week, Ryan and I are going to kind of break down what are the things that you might consider as somebody attempting to implement this plan, and how could you personalize this plan? Because it is certainly not a one-size-fits-all approach, and one concept, idea, strategy may not be applicable to everybody depending on your life circumstances, your financial circumstances, your age, your future plans, those types of things. So we wanted to go over that. Which is the best part
about it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, that's why it's holistic.
Holistic. Yep.
So, all right, a personal strategy. I figured I would start here. Key questions to consider up front, just as baseline questions. What are your current monthly income and expenses, and how might those expenses change into the future? And then plan around that.
Yep.
What existing debts do you have, and should paying them down be a priority over other financial goals? That will depend, obviously. What type of debt? What are the rates? Are they student loans that could be forgiven? What's the situation? And then number 3 is, do you have sufficient liquid reserves to handle emergencies or unforeseen financial disruptions, while also being able to capitalize on future unforeseen opportunities? Because that's really where the money's made, and that's where, frankly, we get a lot of clients calling us needing to scramble to access capital because of an opportunity coming up that was unexpected, and they weren't proactively planning for it. So those are 3, I think, key thoughts that we could maybe dissect a little bit first. So current monthly income and expenses, how might they change in the future? I guess, what should somebody be considering in that respect from your perspective?
Well, I think of what comes to mind originally is think of someone in trades work, where they might be working towards a journeyman's or something like that. So they're qualifying off of the current income household. Maybe it's them and a spouse. You're going to get a significant increase in pay, but it's human nature to really base your current budget and your house budget that you're trying to buy off of what income is coming in now. And the blinders are on, and you don't really see those future projections of income. So I would say any certifications or raises or anything like that are coming that you might have just forgotten about that you're working towards, that can have a significant impact on income.
For sure. And I think
comes to mind.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm glad you went there, because I was kind of thinking along the same lines. And it's we work with so many clients that have a lot of cash or a decent amount, whatever, that's subjective. Anyway, they have more money than they need to buy a house.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, I'm going to invest all that money down to try and drop the payment, because right now it feels really stressful, and I don't feel like I can afford that payment right now comfortably without being house poor. And they forget to look peripherally at, well, maybe it makes sense to pay off that car loan instead. And let's look at things from a holistic, global income and outflow balance sheet for the household, not just the mortgage payment. And this feels really uncomfortable. Look at it holistically, but also something that we commonly do, which is a strategy that lots of these types of people qualify for more money than they want to borrow. That's a
Yeah.
pretty common theme.
Right.
You could just put 20 or 30,000 less down on the house. Granted, the payment's going to go up and the payment might already feel uncomfortable, but now you have 20 or 30 grand. Well, if you know you're going to get that raise or you're going to get that license or you're going to get that income boost in 24 months, well, then take 24 grand, put it in the money market account and pay $1,000 worth of that mortgage payment out of the savings. So you save $1,000 today until that income catches up. But what do you do in those 2 years? In those 2 years, you make a bunch of money and you don't face the need to sell and upgrade 2 years down the road, which is you can lose money. If you try and sell and upgrade too quickly,
Yeah, for sure.
you might lose money. And so that's people get a little overly cautious without casting the line far enough out to say, okay, what is the real strategic, holistic plan? Not just what is simple right now, and I'll figure out everything else later and I'll upgrade later.
Yeah,
we can
because
get
they
more
just tunnel
strategic.
vision on the one payment. Yeah, exactly. And then upgrading later, like you said, in 2 years. I mean, if you know, excuse me, if you know the income's going to go up, you might look back 2 years later and be like, shit, I'm pissed that I bought this house, this size, and this location because I'm making 50 grand more annually. I could have bought a way better house and a way better location that fit my family's needs. Now you're scrambling, or honestly, in the sense that you had mentioned, you'll lose money. I think it's almost a guarantee you're maybe going to break even if you're trying to sell in 2 years.
Well, and it's an absolute guarantee that you're going to lose more money than you would have because
Yes.
you have to pay costs to sell a home.
Right.
Period. If you just
And
bought
so-
the home you
yeah.
wanted, you wouldn't have to sell it, so you're not going to pay any of the
Right. So if
fees.
you zoom out and you get rid of the tunnel vision on the current situation right now, you could prevent yourself from having to be miserable in a house, toughing it out for the next 3 years, knowing that you want to upgrade, but it just doesn't make sense because it costs too much. Or you have to leave
Yeah.
money into the house or, everything else that can
Well, and then
happen
I
from
think
trying
about
to
this,
scramble to sell.
when you're trying to settle for a house and getting one that is maybe less expensive than you could otherwise buy, it may not be suitable for your family, so you're not going to be as happy in the house. It could very well be in an area that is less desirable,
Yeah.
or a neighborhood that's less desirable, or a property type that's less desirable.
Yeah.
And all those things, cheaper and less desirable properties will be a lower quality investment from a financial standpoint. Return on this investment will be lower, whereas you just buy it in the place you know you want to be, financially and strategically plan around that and get some buffers in place, and then you're good to go and you can hold it for long term, and chances are
Yeah.
appreciation was more because it's in a better neighborhood. Your peace of mind and the way your family feels living
I was
in the
going to
home
say, yeah,
is
you
better.
probably got to feel so relieved if you do it that way
Yeah.
because
And
you
the
know,
people you meet, right? You don't have to get your kids in a new school, find a
Yeah.
new neighborhood and meet new friends in the neighborhood. Like, you're building a life, and I think people get so caught up in the
yeah,
here and
because
now.
one of the big things is buyer's remorse.
Yep. Huge,
Mainly
especially
comes
after COVID.
Oh yeah, it mainly comes from structuring your mortgage incorrectly and buying a house that you rushed into. You put a bunch of money in. That's where mainly that remorse comes from.
Yeah.
I mean, if you had financed it right, you kept the right amount of liquidity, the payments were right where you needed them to be to maybe rent it if you needed to, and in 2-3 years you decided, okay, I don't really love this house, but I held on to a bunch of cash, I can actually rent this and break even. Okay, your problem is solved. You don't have to take a loss. You now have cash to go buy a new house, you rent out that other one, you're in a much better spot, and you don't feel those feelings of remorse and like, shit, I really made a mistake rushing into this house 2 years ago.
Yeah.
It's mainly financial. This is the reason why you feel that way.
And locking up cash and just not planning for like what is to come. Remember, we're talking about monthly expenses and monthly income. How's that going to change in the future? How can I plan around that? Because you're looking at a static moment now. Yes, you're not going to change what's going on now, but you could very well change what's going to happen in 1 or 2 or 3 years. Plan for that so that you make a decision that's long-term, because success in real estate is a long-term game. It's not a short-term game buying and flipping houses. Sure, some people can make money. It's not how you create real wealth in real estate, because you just pay Uncle Sam a bunch of money and pay a bunch of fees to transact all the time. And it's miserable. And one thing I was going to say is you're kind of speaking to the point of this is like the fire in our bellies as to why we're so motivated to help clients and why we sincerely believe we are the right solution for, I would say, virtually every client. Of course, we're biased. The drive-through mortgage person is going to say, oh, wow, that's great. Yeah, I totally makes sense. Put all that money down. Buy that house. Why? Because they're just thinking transaction. Let's get you closed. Let's not talk about the rate. Let's not I just want to hurry and get this done. Right. We take a much better approach, I would say, in our opinion, in helping you consider what is going to come next and how do you capitalize on this real estate investment to the maximum extent.
Yeah, and not feeling stuck, giving you options.
Yep.
You have so many different exit routes with the way that we kind of file flow through these scenarios and these structures. You need exit options, really, in any investment.
In life. Don't you want more options? Rather than one, I have to sell because it didn't work out, versus I could sell, I could rent, I could stay. If you just create options for yourself,
peace of mind.
Huge. Anyway, moving on to the next. Kind of along the same lines, but what existing debts do you have, and should you be paying them down, or should paying them down be a priority over other goals, including maybe homeownership? Should you be paying off or down debts before you become a homeowner? What are your thoughts on that? How can people consider that piece of life?
Well, I think to hit on the before they become a homeowner, I think that really depends on the situation. If you need to qualify, then yes, obviously we want to restructure some debts, pay them down so you can get within the range you're looking to qualify for. But the way that I see it, and the way that I've had clients use this in the past, is, buy the house now if you can qualify. If you have debts, structure it the best way possible now. And then I've had clients in the past use appreciation to pay for their student loans that they got 5 years ago, that they otherwise, if they were just saving up and trying to chip away those student loans just from their income, it would have taken them 20 plus years.
They would have never gotten out of debt.
Yeah. And so within 5 years, they're done with their schooling. They get their permanent graduate job that they went to school for. Now they have the increase in pay. They're student debt free, and they're way accelerated in the real estate market because they're jumping into an upgraded house, a step-up house, instead of trying to buy the first one and having to sacrifice because they have more debt in their name. So I would say if you could buy the house, I would always buy the house, because it could actually help you, give you more options and an exit down the road to restructure the debts, get them in a better spot, increase cash flow in your household through cash out refinance, consolidation, home equity lines. I mean, I would always buy the house if you can qualify.
Yeah, if done right, I say homeownership is a financial springboard if you do it right. It can obviously be an anchor if you do it wrong. If you make emotional decisions that are not thought out, not with the advice of somebody who knows what they're doing. Our team, we are that source. If it's done correctly, it can be a financial springboard. It can get you out of debt, whereas it may take decades to get out of debt. It can do things you can't do without real estate. Now, on the flip side, maybe a different perspective, we kind of touched on it a moment ago, is lots of people think, for various reasons, I got to put all my money down on the house. I got to get that house payment down. And then they'll get caught up in this idea that it's like, well, yeah, I know I could pay off the car loan, or I know I could pay off this loan, but then my house payment will stay high and that car loan's going to go away in 4 years.
Well, and my rate's only 5% on the car loan, and I'm going to pay 7% on the mortgage, so it just makes sense to put it towards the house.
Exactly. And it's like, well, one, no, it doesn't, because it's illiquid.
Right.
Two, the affordability is unbelievably different. If you just paid off that car loan, let's just say 30 grand, pay that off. What's the payment on 30 grand? $900 a month?
Probably somewhere around the somewhere between $500 to $700 a month.
So we'll just say $700 a month. I think that's realistic with where rates are at now. If you have because remember, not buying a $30,000 car, an existing $30,000 car loan probably started at $40,000.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, correct.
So we'll just say $700 a month. Well, that's $100,000 in purchasing power. Well, over a 5-year period, that $100,000 in purchasing power, had you just paid off the car and spent the extra $100,000 on a house, one, you're going to be happier. It's going to be probably in a better area, but it's going to appreciate. Remember, the house is a $100,000 house is going to appreciate at the same 5%, or the extra $100,000 is going to appreciate at the same 5% as the rest of the value of the house. So that $100,000 is basically gravy. Let's say it appreciates at 5% for 5 years. And let's assume the car loan would be paid off in 5 years. You just made, this is crazy, I didn't even plan for this. You just made, does your home and auto insurance seem to go up every year without fail? Mine did too. I thought this was just the way the insurance industry worked until I found my friend Alan Johnson with American Family Insurance. After more than 15 years with the same insurance agent, he saved me over $3,000 per year when I switched. I refer all my family, friends, and clients to him, and their experience is similar. Great rates and a great experience. Call Alan for a free quote today at 801-708-2962. Almost exactly $30,000 in profit, $28,335 in extra profit because you paid off the car and bought the more expensive home. You essentially just pivoted that monthly expense into the home. You just made enough money in profit to pay cash for that car.
Yeah. Well, and even if the interest rate on the auto loan is much lower, 2%, 3% lower than the mortgage rate, none of that is tax deductible. Talk about the tax deductions within that 5-year period too.
Exactly. We're not even considering that.
Yeah. I mean, that could be a couple $100 a month that you pocket, which is significant, especially if you're picking up a new house.
For sure.
And freeing up an auto payment. I mean,
yeah. And here's the other thing. You know, if we talk about holistic mortgage planning altogether, and I don't want to veer off too far, but now you are mitigating risk at a level that you wouldn't have done otherwise, because now you have a free and clear car. If some emergency happens, go get a car loan real quick.
Which is the only time it's an asset.
Exactly.
If it's paid off.
That's right. And that's easier to go get a car loan just practically overnight through a credit union, get a car loan. Or if you had to, sell the thing and liquidate and get some cash. Like, it gives you another chess piece you can move around the board in, rather than having all the capital tied up into the house and still having all of the expenses. Like, it's silly.
You're out of options.
Yeah, you have no options.
Eventually you run out of options at this point.
And that's what causes people bankrupting and foreclosing.
I mean, when you run out of options, it's bankruptcy.
Yeah, or you have to, if you want to avoid bankruptcy and you own a house, we've seen this before because people get too tunnel vision on, I got to get my mortgage paid down, I got to put all my money here, blah, 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 get all this stuff done, as opposed to thinking holistically. They have to now, because they've run out of options, they didn't proactively plan, they have to sell their house and uproot their families, even though they don't want to.
Yeah.
But it's either that or bankruptcy. You know?
Yeah, and maybe not even be in the position to buy another one at that point. So now they're stuck in rents for the next, year or two until they financially recover.
Minimum a couple of years probably.
Until they can save up for another down payment. Yeah, it's just, you put yourself in a bad spot.
Yeah, for sure. So that, and then we've kind of already touched on this a little bit because they all speak to each other, but do you have sufficient liquid reserves to handle emergencies or unforeseen financial disruptions while also giving yourself the ability to capitalize on future opportunities? I spoke to that on the car loan. Yeah. That, you got to broaden your perspective here. Liquid reserves doesn't mean cash sitting idle doing nothing. Liquidity is what I say, and this depends on your risk tolerance and different factors, but and you want to get with a financial planner to really understand all of these details, but we can help at least instill some ideas. But a car that is free and clear is a heck of a lot more liquid than a house with a bunch of equity in it, because you have to uproot your family and sell it. Yeah. Or a HELOC is great liquidity with money invested in the stock market or in your 401k or whatever. So,
and a Roth too. You can access your contributions at any time because it was post-tax.
Oh, good.
So
good thought.
That's liquid. You could take your cash out there, but it's invested. The idea is you don't, right? But you're just creating these financial backstops in multiple layers.
And being thoughtful about liquidity. And I think that's like the underlying theme here. We keep saying options. Give yourself options. The options are more liquidity. That's where you have more options. It's not all about the monthly payment. It's not all about, it's hardly about the monthly payment, honestly. As long as you can qualify and you've got the financial resources to make it work, you can get strategic and thoughtful with it. It's certainly not about the interest rate, because that's tax deductible. Yeah, it sucks, whatever. You can refi later. There's no sense to save, an 8% in mortgage rate and put an extra $50,000 down. It's like, and what we get is clients saying, well, I mean, an 8% on this $500,000 mortgage over 30 years is a lot of money. It's like, you're not going to be in the mortgage for 30 years. Let's be real. And what could that money, that same $50,000 to save the 8%, what could that do if invested elsewhere? How valuable could that be in case of an emergency where it was locked up in the house or you have it accessible?
Well, and the funny thing about that too is the money invested, you could potentially earn enough in a year to take some of the profits if you wanted to and make a principal reduction payment against your mortgage. One extra payment a year cuts off 7 years of your mortgage, something like give or take, which would save you way more in interest than an 8%.
Yeah.
And way less risk by doing so. You don't have to fork up so much cash to save all that interest over 30 years for an 8% different in interest rate.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just creative things like that.
Yep. Getting creative. Now, we've talked a lot about, it seems like, younger people with a long time to go. Let's talk about different circumstances. Maybe you've got empty nesters downsizing, or you have people hitting retirement, and maybe their income is not going up. It's actually coming down. What are your thoughts on those situations?
I still think we rely a lot on liquidity there. We had clients come in just recently in a similar boat here. In retirement, they're looking to downgrade, get in a 55 plus community. They have a ton of equity from or estimated proceeds from the sale of their current house. I think they're estimating like $400,000 or something like that. And their thought is, well, let's just roll it all into the new house because I don't want to be over leveraged and have a bunch of debt going into retirement. Well, if your income is going to stay stagnant or decrease, if they I think we had discussed, just to kind of paint the picture here, putting 20% down, which was like $160,000, they can qualify for that just fine. But the payments, of course, like a $1,400 higher than where they want it to be. If they wanted to get it down to that payment range they were looking for, they'd have to invest that extra $200,000, give or take, from those estimated proceeds. Yeah, to get the payment down that much. They lose all liquidity at that point. They know their income's going to stay the same. If anything, it could decrease. So what I had discussed, and you don't always have to be so extreme. I mean, again, it's all risk tolerance and risk level. And
situational.
And
There's
situational,
lots of things.
yeah, exactly. But I had told them, well, if you can qualify for this much, you're worried about passing debt down to your heirs. The reality is you're going to pass down equity. However they decide to handle it at that point is up to them, and I don't think a difference of the payment being $1,000 cheaper or not is going to be significant. So I mentioned that, one, you're going to be handing them down equity. It's not like you're handing them a debt load. They're going to get a house that has $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 in equity. By the time that comes, they're going to be stoked. There's ways to work around that payment too. And so I told him, well, how about you just take the $200,000 extra in cash, go meet with a financial advisor. They didn't have a financial advisor, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, at that point,
there are so many that don't have it, and they're all acting on fear and advice from well-meaning loved ones.
For sure.
That frankly are not warranted to give advice in almost every circumstance. Sometimes you've got a rich family member that can give quality advice, but even the rich family member sometimes doesn't have the right advice because it's very subjective to their situation, their experience, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. Whereas if you get pros involved like us, we can just be more objective with it. We're spitting out options and strategies and ideas. We're not like, oh no, you gotta do this, you know?
In the end, they want to put the cash down. It's totally up to them. But yeah, the thought was meet with a financial advisor, discuss the extra amount of cash that you guys should keep, and talk about some sort of annuity that can create an additional monthly income and likely offset the difference that you're looking to save in the monthly payment anyways, which is about $1,300, $200,000. We could maybe do the math real quick. If it was,
because it was $240,000, right? And it was a $1,300 payment difference.
Yep.
So divided by 240,000, all you got to get is a 6.5% return on your money. To spit out a 1,300, basically to break even, you only need a 6.5% return.
And then that money compounds, and now it's generational wealth. You can now hand that over, like we have discussed.
And the money doesn't go away. That's the crazy thing.
So your heirs now continue to get $1,300 or whatever that is per month if they take over on those assets, which is what their concern is anyways, right? Everyone at retirement age, they don't want to leave all the debt burden to their kids.
Right.
Well, you're actually putting yourself in a better position to hand over a better heir, or I guess a
better
trust,
inheritance.
you know what I'm saying? A better inheritance. Thank you. I was spacing the word.
And the reality is, like, that 6.5% is
very attainable
to accomplish. Yeah. And depending on your circumstances, you can't be in as risky of assets because you can't sustain a year of minus 15 and then hope for a year of plus 20. Yeah. So, that does kind of temper things. But I know of many
mutual
investments,
funds and things like that.
Other things. There's different real estate type investments. There's different private equity type investments.
Pretty secure stuff.
And they give you a guaranteed distribution of a certain amount.
Right.
Plus you have the upside that's significant. So there's a lot of really cool options. You just have to be willing to just push the emotions down a little bit. Don't be so scared and freaked out and fearful and worried about what if.
Yeah.
What if you shifted that energy to what if this worked out as good as it really could? And frankly, even not pie in the sky, but as good as it probably will. Not what if worst possible case scenario happened. If you do that, you've got to consider what if best possible case scenario happened.
Well, I think the problem is if you always plan for the worst and that's it, then you're leaving money on the table always. I think, have a contingency plan for the worst, but you should optimize for the best.
Yeah, exactly. Plan and optimize for the best, but that's where mitigate risk comes in our whole strategy. You optimize the leverage, you mitigate risk, and all those things combined enable you to maximize wealth creation through the power of homeownership and mortgage financing. We're not saying don't consider the worst case scenario and don't have a contingency plan in place for the worst case scenario. That's reckless. That is bankruptcy, probably quicker than the other way. But it's also not taking it to the other extreme. And what I would say when I talk to clients, for the most part, most clients take it to the other extreme where it's like so unreasonably cautious that they're actually not even recognizing how much risk they're putting on themselves and their families because they're so focused on avoiding one worst case scenario that's like a minuscule chance that it will happen.
Yeah.
So that, and then let's see, we talked about emergency funds.
Because the crazy thing is the fears that they have, oftentimes, I think they can somewhat put them at ease with the general first thought of like put more money towards the house, right? It makes you feel a little bit more secure. But in the end, you're like, most of the time, you're still kind of like, oh, even though I put that much into the house, I don't have as much cash left over. My payment, I'm only saving about this. So, I mean, I guess it makes me feel a little bit better, but it doesn't completely solve the fear. These options could completely take them away entirely.
Yeah, it's a very surface level approach, not a super thoughtful approach. You've got to consider all the, frankly, I guess now that I think about it, just all we're saying is you actually have to think about worst case scenario more than a lot of these people
right.
are.
That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah,
because it's a better solution to your fears and your worst case scenario than the initial thought. Right. Generally speaking.
But most people don't consider when they want to put so much money down, throw all their liquidity away. What I find is most people are thinking, man, that payment's really high. I've got to get that payment lower. And what you're saying is if you save $1,300 a month, but you still have a $2,200 expense and something really bad happens and you have no liquidity, well, you're screwed. You still can't make a $2,200 bill, right?
Yeah.
But if you had a $3,500 bill and hundreds of thousands in liquidity and something happened, you're fine.
Right.
You can weather the storm.
Yeah, because in those case scenarios, like whether it's a medical expense or some emergency expense or income goes down, the savings of $1,000 a month, I mean, it doesn't do you anything if you have nothing to float you for long periods of time.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why so many land in bankruptcy. Medical bankruptcy is like one of the worst things like one of the most prevalent things that exist from a financial catastrophe standpoint. And it's because people don't plan.
Yeah.
And it's
because the worst case scenario is you're not preventing it from happening by going any of these routes. I guess what I'm saying or what we're saying is you have so many more things to fall back on before worst case scenario like bankruptcy hits, which I guess if it really hits at that point, it was inevitable. But the thing is you're setting yourself up for success.
And the crazy thing is like what we talk about often, which we haven't hit on, but I think it's a really valuable point, is if you have all the money tied up in the house, yes, you can go get a loan or a HELOC or whatever, but generally when you need it is when you cannot qualify for financing anymore.
Yeah, thank you. I was trying to get to that point and I just got a little off
track. It's like, so you're in trouble.
So you lost your income. Okay, you need that money back. You're going to come to us and say, hey, I lost my income. I need some of that cash back. We're going to say you don't have the ability to repay this loan. You're not getting any of your cash back. Buckle up because, I mean, you could sell it. And
exactly. Now uproot your family and now have to go buy a new one, but wait, you can't qualify?
So yeah, you're renting.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, that's that. One other thing that I think is really critical that a lot of people miss is there are really legitimate insurance policies that can guard against all sorts of stuff. There's mortgage protection insurance in case you lose a job or die or something, you can't make your mortgage payment. It'll help.
Yeah.
There's long-term and short-term disability. There's life insurance. There's all these insurance tools that can be leveraged to help guard against these things too. And you keep yourself more liquid and maximize wealth along the way versus being short-sighted. So again, just being holistic with it. And then recognizing that the choices you make today might need to evolve years down the road. So revisiting that plan, being proactive and thoughtful about using us as we work with our clients. We call it client for life. We have actually incentives built around that, but our goal is to develop a relationship and be a long-standing, reliable resource for these clients. As their life evolves and changes, we help them think through how do they leverage in the right way? How do they create and tap into the resources that they've planned for? So I think recognizing that whatever you do now is not the end all be all say all. Like, it can change. And it, frankly, most of the time it changes for the better. You got a chance to refi. You got a chance to do something different. So I think that's important. Obviously working with us is critical, but I don't have anything else except for talking about a couple of the free resources we have. Do you have anything to close with?
Mm-mm.
No? So a couple free resources, which are awesome. We'll put them somewhere in the comments or in the description here so you can access them easily. We have a financial freedom worksheet that helps you kind of cast a vision into the future of, like, what do you want to accomplish and what does it take? How is the debt impacting your ability to accomplish those goals? It's fun. We're happy to help you. All of us do it on a real-time basis. We're happy to guide you through it as well. If you want to do that exercise with your family to kind of start planning for the future, it's a fun exercise. And then number 2 is probably, I don't know if it's more important, but it's the newest thing for me, and I'm really excited about it. I've been working on an eBook about holistic mortgage planning, and it's finally done. It's launched. It's on the website. There will be a link on this video. It is a simple path to financial freedom, holistic mortgage planning. And truly, if you take the approaches we're talking about now, you should read the book. It's only like 60 pages, but packed full of great information. You literally can have a path to ultimate financial freedom and generational wealth with real estate, buying 2 houses in your lifetime. So it's powerful stuff. It's what we're excited about. And
if you enjoyed what we talked about today, you want more details, the book has all of that in way more detail, way easier to understand, compartmentalized in ways that make sense.
Even some case studies.
And honestly, even if you're a doubter and you want to prove us wrong, read the book.
Tell us where we're wrong. We do want to know. We want to get better.
Either way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, thank you all for tuning in. Please read the book. Check out the Financial Freedom Worksheet. Share this episode. Share the book with people. It's super valuable for us, and it means a lot. Like, subscribe, do all the things because it's really beneficial for us, and we want to spread the word of these strategies to help people make better financial decisions as it relates to their real estate investing. So thanks for tuning in.
Thank you for tuning in. For more industry insights, follow us on all platforms at Loans Elevated.
And to get in touch with our team, call or text 801-713-4000 or visit loanselevated.com.